Is my partner using therapy against me?
Brannon, how's it going, man?
It's going well. It's our holiday today.
Your holiday.
It's our holiday.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, dude,
Brannon.
you're lucky you got a green shirt on, man.
Um,
Oh,
I don't know if it's actually green, but it's maybe the color on the computer's off, but oh man, we have this I totally bombed it, Brannon. It is St. Patrick's Day today, which of course our last namesake is a big holiday for the Patricks.
oh yeah, you don't mess around.
You don't mess around on St.
Yeah.
Patrick's
Hey, you
Day.
still got time. Don't you didn't bomb nothing. You still got time.
we have a tradition somehow at our house where
A
for
tradition that we never should have started, but
no 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 I think mom and dad started it, and it was the kind of thing where like they somehow Lucky the Leprechaun would make a drop at the front door, and it would just be a whole thing of like everything green,
yeah.
right? Like
You
so
get
potato chips in green packaging or
Apple Jacks, Pringles. I mean, you got your like classics.
yeah.
The sour cream and onion Pringles, Apple Jacks.
Yeah,
Um,
those ones always made an appearance. There'd
yeah.
always be some kind of fruit like a green apple or something in there for the healthy
There's
conscious.
like one little healthy thing and then just sugar.
Just like
Just because that's what our
straight
kids
junk
need is
food.
another holiday with a load of sugar on the porch.
Yeah.
But it's not us, it's Lucky. I mean, what do we do? It's Lucky the
Yeah. Hey,
leprechaun.
Lucky
Hey,
dropped it. Yeah, like we
yeah.
can't we
It's
can't
not
help it.
us. I mean, our last
Yeah.
name's Patrick. Oh,
You, you know what's so funny about that too, Brandon, is that in our history, our name was actually changed, so we don't really have any Irish in us at all.
hey, I'm claiming it now though. We're third generation.
Yeah.
We're third generation Patrick. This is our holiday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lucky will make a late appearance today, probably, even though
Uh,
I've got kids that are too old now anyway. But
I'm going out on the yard today and rolling in the clover.
oh man.
Anyways, yeah, I left no doubt today. I'm green head to toe. I'm not getting pinched. I refuse to get pinched.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
I do
So
have some shorts. My shorts are green, so I guess I'm good to go today too.
your shorts that you
So
wore to work today are green in
I always wear
March.
I always wear shorts to work,
Your
Brandon.
green shorts in March are green. Good.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
yeah. Well, should we get into
yeah, man.
the things
Yeah, man.
here?
Let's first we got another review, so we want to read it, and then we'll get into a question that was submitted to us online here. It'll actually be a really good discussion today. So this one is says just awesome. And it says, Gentlemen, I just want to say thank you so much for your vulnerability, your heart, and your wisdom, and for doing this for everyone in the world. What a priceless gift. You are both doing the Lord's work, in my opinion, and with such kindness and wisdom and heart. I love you guys.
Oh, could that have been more genuine, heartfelt? Like,
That's really
that
kind.
was freaking awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
that.
for taking the time. I know you could just go on with your day, and for you to have that thought and to turn around and share it, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Tyler, we got a really good, complex question that was submitted to us.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of different directions this could go in and different principles we can talk about.
yeah.
So should we just dive into the question?
Let's do it. I'll just read this, and like you said, Brandon, there's probably five or six different directions we could go. So we'll just pick which one or whichever ones feel, most pertinent right now.
Okay.
Um, so thank you for submitting this question. And it says, Day was 9 years ago. My husband is still acting out with porn almost daily. Currently in Reclaim Your Heart and currently in Reclaim Your Heart and tells me this program and others, ARP, Men and Moroni, the podcast, etc., teach him he is worthy of love without changing a thing. Is he weaponizing this against me? He says he feels he has made changes, knows he needs to make more, but isn't implementing tools learned from therapy or your podcasts, even the obvious ones like replacing numbing out on screens with healthy habits. He tells me he's entitled to sexual experiences, and if I'm not able, willing right now, and he doesn't want to have an affair, porn is the only option. He's looking to me for affection and love to help him over this and his negative feelings, but I don't know how or want to be supportive and loving anymore. If he hasn't made significant changes after 9 years, then is there really any hope? Addiction there before we got married, strip clubs, acting out, etc. Until now, been married 29 years.
Okay. Um, so
That's
again,
a pretty heavy situation.
oh yeah, heavy situation.
Yeah.
Sounds like she doesn't want divorce, but she will definitely want some change. Same
Yeah.
at the same time. Um, and again, as we break this down, Tyler and I don't have all the pieces to the puzzle here. We have this question, and first thing that I would do is start to really dig in and assess like what's going on with them as a couple and what's going on with them individually and what's really happening here. Because a lot of different things could be happening, right?
Oh, yeah. There's surely a lot of things happening here. I think, the fact that this has been a 9 year process, and if this is the current state, um, there's likely a couple of things possibly happening here. One is that she is feeling stuck, like she doesn't really want to leave, but she sees the writing on the wall that there's no recovery happening here. If he's saying the things that he's saying, he is starting to use the things he's learning as a way of keeping himself stuck and playing small rather than actually getting into recovery.
Well, maybe. I mean, and again, like we don't know what we don't know. Like she might be thinking that he's acting out and he's not. But and so he's
Well,
kind of like,
she says he's still acting out with porn almost daily.
oh, okay. I mean, it seems like he's acting out if that's what she's saying. But sometimes I've worked with partners where they think their partner is not safe just because they have sexuality. And so they want that to be gone in order for them to be a safe partner. And that's not a reality. And so sometimes it's good for the the person to say, hey, like this is who I am. Like I'm gonna be honest with you about that. Um, but if he's acting out with porn daily, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think what's happening here, and this is actually pretty common, and again, we're reading between the lines. We don't know for sure. But, and this is maybe something we should do with this, Brannon, is we should break down some of the principles of truth that we stand by and what we talk about with recovery. And then we should talk about how those get misconstrued or twisted up into the forms of denial that keep people stuck.
Okay. That
Um,
sounds good.
so, so for instance, one of the things that we say that let's just start with the one you just said, Brannon. Um, Something that makes us a little bit different than other programs and things is that other programs are so focused on sobriety that they work on actually trying to kill like this man's sexuality so that he won't be dangerous,
Right.
right? Right. And something that we're different about is that we actually believe that embracing your sexuality as a part of you and then learning to channel it for good health is is actually the pathway forward. We
It,
believe
it's
in
it's
not shaming and
essential.
killing that part.
It's essential to actual recovery because recovery ultimately is recovering an understanding of self and who you are. And if you are pretending like your sexuality is not there in order to appease a spouse, then you're manipulating and you're lying and you're undermining recovery and you're going to constantly feel shame and self-rejection. So it's essential. And so like it's interesting because what he said that he's gotten from all these programs, Reclaim Your Heart included, is that he's lovable no matter what. And that is
That's
true.
true.
He's getting truth from that. And so that's awesome. Now, but Tyler, the thing about that is we try to use power, not force in recovery. When you understand who you really are, when you start to gain a sense of peace within yourself, you have less of a need to escape. You have less of a need to numb out, and you have less of a need to avoid. You step into reality. And what that means is you get natural sobriety. You don't get forced sobriety. And so if this acting out is continuing to happen, what that's showing to me is that he might be saying that, yes, I'm lovable no matter what, but he might not be believing it.
Yeah, in fact, I would say that it's probably almost assuredly that's the case. That's where it becomes denial is that he picked up this thing and it sounded really good and he's like, "Oh yeah, like I am lovable no matter what." Yes, that is absolutely true. And if you actually believe that, then you start to act like you're lovable, which leads you to do things to take care of yourself. And if you start to take care of yourself, you're going to start moving away from the things that are harmful to you, that aren't serving you, that aren't helping you to your overall, goals of who you want to be as a person. And so if he's saying, "Yeah, I'm lovable no matter what. Let's dial up the next porn." Either there's a values issue between the couple where he's saying porn is me taking care of myself, or he's lying and he actually doesn't really believe in his own lovability and he's continuing to reinforce the things that will reinforce his unlovability.
So we need to break those two down because I like what you just said because it could be one or the other. And let's talk about the values issue for a second. If he's coming to her authentically and saying, porn is blessing my life and I love it and I'm not going to change it,
It makes me a better man.
right? It makes me a better man. Okay. Now, let's say, and she's coming and saying, I can't have that in our
That's
marriage.
not going to work
That
for
doesn't
me.
work. Okay. At that point, if it's a values issue, then they as a couple need to say, okay, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
Like, if you are authentically showing up that way, then how do we survive in this marriage, or how do we end the marriage so that we can maintain our values and our principles of whatever, right? Great. That's one thing. What you're saying, the second option is there an element, and we talked about this on the episode that actually released today, is there an element of denial or manipulation or untruth going on where he's saying that I'm okay with this but he's actually not, and there's a manipulation going on, um and if there's that going on, then it will definitely continue to do damage to the relationship, right?
Yeah, I know, and it's likely that it's a manipulation and a denial in himself as much as there is a manipulation and denial to the
with
relationship.
with her, yeah.
He's trying to do mental gymnastics to justify not having to do the work to make the changes that he actually says he believes in.
Right. Right.
And so then that feels manipulative and it feels really kind of gaslighty when he starts saying those kinds of things.
Right.
Because it's not, it either doesn't feel honest or it feels like it's like in her question, she feels like it's being put back onto her that somehow she's supposed to still be supportive and loving and, even be sexually available because he's a sexual being and he's entitled to sexual like experiences.
Can I play devil's advocate just a little here? And
Sure.
this is purely to flush out some concepts here. Um, so what if like he's feeling really trapped in the relationship? He's feeling trapped emotionally. He doesn't feel like his needs are getting met. Sexually, he doesn't feel like his needs are getting met. He just feels trapped, and the porn is an outlet. The porn is a way to have a little bit of control in his life. And if she's overbearing, if she's like coming at him saying you better change, that pushes him even more to be like, nope, I'm going to cling to this thing because I feel so stuck with you. I feel like there's nothing else I can do. So, you know, you develop this system of like, oh yeah, I'm working recovery, but I'm not going to change this behavior because I'm keeping you at a distance and telling you that I'm changing, but I'm not. There's a right way to handle this that's way different than this system,
Yeah. If
right,
if
Tyler?
that's the case, and let's just say I don't
This is just I'm making this
I
up.
don't think she's being overbearing here, but let's say she is, and
But if he's feeling that
but
way,
he's but
right,
he's
whether
feeling that
she is
way.
or not, right?
If he's feeling that way, the truth is the buck still stops with him.
What do you
Like
mean? What do you mean?
he's well, he's not living with integrity.
Right.
He's going about trying to fulfill his needs, but he's still living in a form of denial we call compliance, which is that he's going around pretending to do something to keep her off his back, but he really doesn't want to do that or let go of the thing because it's his baby, it's his support, it's his precious. But he won't go with the integrity and say, "Hey, we got a problem. I'm afraid of you and I don't know how to handle your response to me because it feels whatever crushing to me or scary to me, or I might lose you. I feel inadequate, whatever else." And so what he does instead is like, okay, okay, yeah, I'll do all of that. And then he's like, no, she's off my back. Okay, I'll do whatever I want now. That
Right.
there's no integrity in that.
Right. That's what I was trying to get to. Is like, yeah, there's a you could say there's a reason if he's in that victim mode and he's pushing against her with acting out or whatever, we could say, yeah, there's a reason. Like, whoa, and I'm not saying she's horrible, but if like he feels that way, like, yeah, you feel like she's horrible and she won't change and you're stuck and all these things. At the same time, I love what you said. The buck stops with him. What that means is, yeah, it's a lot easier to set up a system of unconscious coping where you're not actually dealing with the problem. You're trying to manipulate the situation versus no matter how difficult it might be, getting back in alignment with your integrity and showing up honestly and saying, look, this is not working for me and we need to deal with this. However hard, whatever friction this is going to cause, or whatever consequences there are going to be, I'm going to face those consequences so that we can actually deal with this. And I'm going to be honest with you about how I feel and where I'm at and what I need.
You wanna watch a marriage slowly disintegrate over the course of 10 or 15 years, get one or two people who just won't quite be honest with each other, and then somehow they just fell out of love after 10 or
Yeah.
15 years, when in reality they never actually stepped in with integrity in the first place,
Yep.
and they didn't
Yep.
take the opportunity to iron it out. Man, it hurts me so bad to watch this happen so often, where you see so many marriages that actually could not only have survived but have flourished if both partners would have lived this way. And instead, in order to avoid hurting feelings or avoid being exposed, they just feed themselves a slow drip of poison over the next 15 or 20 years and then have nothing left and don't know how they got there.
And spend your life doing that. It would have been better to blow it up 15 years earlier and not live in that hell.
Yeah. Oh, and,
Right.
and, and in blowing it up 15 years earlier, maybe navigate it and figure it out.
Well, yeah, blowing it up means
Yeah.
the cards go in the air and we'll see where they land. Um, but it doesn't just mean the marriage is over. Um, but it is what we mean by blow it up is like we're having a real come to Jesus and it is honest reality. Like here, this is where we're at. It's interesting, Tyler. We're talking about him and this scenario I made up about him instead of acting out passively in order to get his needs met, to be honest and open. But her too. Like this question, I hear a lot of like basically like I'm sick and tired of the years.
Yeah.
D-Day was 9 years ago, right? And she's being asked again and again to just like let your truths go and live with me the way that it is.
Yeah.
Let this go and survive in this marriage, right? And at what point does she stop betraying herself and step into this is how I feel and here's what my truths are,
Yeah, and
right?
these
Let's
certain
blow this
things are
up.
not going to work for me, so we need to renavigate this somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh,
Um
Brandon, there's another piece of this that I think, just kind of going along with pieces of truth that then get turned into denial sometimes or misunderstood. She talks about, and we touched on this briefly, but she said, he tells me he is entitled to sexual experiences, and if I'm not willing right now, he doesn't want to have an affair. Porn is the only option. And then she says, let's see. Yeah, he's looking to me for affection and love to help him get over his negative feelings, but I don't know how to be supportive anymore. So, so one of the true principles that I think we talk about is that the embracing of your sexuality is a necessary thing. We mentioned that earlier. Um, I hear some twisting going on here where his perception of self-acceptance with being a sexual being is entitlement to sexual experience.
Yeah.
And and I don't purport that actually. Like
Yeah.
I believe that healthy sexual experience includes certain other conditions that make it healthy. And he needs to look himself in the mirror a little bit and ask himself what his relationship with his sexuality is and whether or not it's actually going to work for him with his beliefs about it.
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of split this hair of what you just said because I agree with you. Um, he is a sexual being and embracing his sexuality is very important. And that doesn't mean that he's entitled to sexual experiences. So both can exist at the same time, right?
That's right.
I'm not entitled to that word entitlement is just like you're not entitled to anything. Um, and God made you as a sexual being. So it's important for you to own that. And therein lies that piece of like, I can own myself as a sexual being, but I can also sit in the discomfort of not acting out or not getting that fulfillment. Like I can actually manage that. I'm okay with that. That shows a strong masculinity. Now, Tyler, there is some truth to, let's say that, I was working with a couple, they hadn't had sex in 20 years. And there's not entitlement, but at some point you can, and we talked about this a few episodes back, at some point you need to address, look, sexuality is important to me. I'm not entitled to your body in any way. No, I'm not entitled to having sex with you in any way. And this is an important part of a healthy relationship. So let's address that and work toward that together, right? That's way different than I'm entitled to sex and you're not giving it to me, so I'm acting out with porn.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm going to undermine actually creating trust and safety with you.
and that's where you have to look at yourself as a sexual being and understand what you're going for in terms of how to use your sexuality for the benefit of what your overall goals are. Because if I talk to most people, they're in this spot, and what I hear in this line that she shares is he's entitled to sexual experiences, and if I'm not willing, then the only thing he can do is look at porn. Like, listen to how helpless and small and weak that is. That is like so laden with like addictive kinds of ideas of I am helpless. I cannot make my own choices because I have these feelings and my feelings make me do something instead of being able to go, no, I have these drives and these drives are so important that I want to learn how to channel them in ways that can be beneficial to me in all the best ways possible, which would probably include being with my spouse because I'm in a marriage. So instead of going and needing to get porn to get my rocks off because I can't handle my feelings, I'm going to learn how to manage my feelings. And then I'm going to start looking towards the other conditions that lead to great sex. And I'm going to say, oh, I can show up in strength. I can show up in honesty. I can show up in presence. I can show up in like building a relationship and showing respect and kindness and love and inviting her into my strength. And if I'm doing those things and I'm looking myself in the mirror and I'm developing into that kind of a man that's going to show up with my side of my sexuality intact in my relationship, then I can work with my spouse towards those things. And if not, then at a certain point, I'm going to have to make a different choice.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with men who have done that, and it doesn't lead to great sex sometimes, right? Like they've genuinely gone through a long process of learning how to be authentic, honest, safe, trustworthy men, and they are, and they're good men. But the trauma has been so bad in the past, and sometimes it's the trauma of their spouse that they had nothing to do with. Sometimes it's just their past trauma that it's like it's too much to overcome. And so I've seen guys really be patient with their partners and work on that and um do different types of sex therapy and things like that to help with that. um and I've seen guys end up divorced in a loving way of like, look, like I've got to have a boundary here, like this is very important to me, right? um
Yes.
And so but what we're talking about right now is so different than what's going on in this question,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, like what you're describing has an element of self-introspection, self-accountability, a lot of work, a lot of sort of navigating and channeling those energies, looking at your value system, and then making choices based off of the reality of your situation. Versus what's in this question is I am a slave to my impulses. And because I need to do something, and because I want to, I'm doing you a favor by not having an affair, so I'm going to go look at porn
Yeah. I
because I
hope
can't help myself.
I hope this guy goes and listens to our episode we just did about my partner isn't giving me enough sex.
That
Because
would be
we
really good for him to hear.
Yeah, because what he doesn't understand is how he is actually really um like shooting himself in the foot with the way that he's approaching this. And
Well,
there's a
and
better
when you
way.
say Brannon shooting himself in the foot, it's not just with his sex with his partner. He's shooting himself in the foot with the way he's cultivating his own heart.
Right.
He's treating himself as small and weak instead of stepping into his actual power.
Right, but okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. But what do you mean? I'm going to group, I've done therapy, I'm working on reclaim your heart. Like, what do you mean I'm not stepping into my power?
Because you're still a slave to your feelings. And you still have an idea that somehow because you have sexual feelings and you can embrace that you have sexual feelings, it means you have to act on them. And you're still operating from when we look at like a compulsive behavior and addiction, there's basically the four beliefs we always talk about. The shame belief, I am basically bad, weak, unlovable, whatever. If people really knew me, they wouldn't love me. I'm on my own. And in this case, sex is my biggest need. And he's still operating from a place of sex is my biggest need. And he's actually overplaying his sexuality, making it a prominent thing in life rather than letting it be a part of a whole life that he can choose to live.
But that's fine, Tyler. I'm going to still be him for just a second. That's fine. Okay. Then what do you want me to do? Like what? I'm going to group, I'm trying, I'm in therapy. Like yeah, those beliefs are still there. They're there. I admit it. Then what do you want me to do, Tyler?
Yeah, so let's keep the doing intact, but let's change the way you're doing it. Let's actually look at yourself and let's try to back up and look at principles of humility and accountability.
I am humble. Like I go, I've gone for a long time.
Yeah, but what about your belief system and your heart, man? Like why are you actually going and what are you trying to accomplish when you go? Like honestly, when you look yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't say this, but I'm trying to get my wife to see that I'm good, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm trying.
I'm trying to make my wife feel better about us. But haven't really done the deep work to look into myself and say, why am I doing this? Why does this feel so big to me? Is it really serving me? What are my values? That's the work he's got to do. And I love we just got a chat over here from Skylar that says sometimes being deep in therapy and group can be a mask we hide behind.
Mhm.
And that's what you're doing right now, bud. Is you're kind
Yep.
of hiding behind the doing of everything without actually putting your heart into it.
Yep. Yep. That's it, Tyler. As long as he's over attached to her with his motives, um, like to separate that out and really find his heart. There's a reason why we call it reclaim your heart. And we mean it. It's not like, hey, come do this crazy amazing program so that then you can manipulate with it and show people how awesome you are. That is like the
Yuck.
opposite of what we're doing in there.
Yep.
Um, yeah, the therapy thing, um, whether it's therapy, whether it's reading a book. I remember reading books when I was a kid, Tyler, and it was like, I'm just trying to read this book so I can tell someone that I read this book.
Every day, every book in high school.
Yeah, I can tell a teacher. I can tell, dad would have us read so many, like, I just want, and then I remember reading a book and I read like the whole book and I thought to myself, right? Like I read the last page and I thought, what did that even say? Like what was that story? Like I don't even know it. Like what? But I read the book,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you
Uh,
did it.
yeah. And so like you see the principle here, right? Like I read, but I got nothing out of it. I got nothing changed in my life other than it took my time to read that book, right? And that's what happens a lot with therapy. I'm going through the motions with an agenda that isn't about me healing me, that isn't about me figuring out my deepest wounds, and therefore nothing's really going to change. In fact, I'm going to do more damage in my life as a result of this manipulation.
Yeah. Yeah, Brandon, we just got another comment here that kind of goes along with this that would be helpful to speak to. From a EJ, it says, question, what if my husband wants sex, but I still don't want to do it with him? I'm still really hurt a year and a half post D-Day. It's not fair to him. What do I do? That's a great question.
I love this question. We
Yeah.
could do a full episode on this. Um, the what I do have an answer, Tyler. Um, this
I
is
think we've already talked about some of the answer, but
right,
go ahead.
but
Yeah.
this is actually awesome. This is a great opportunity for them as a couple, right here in this spot to start to practice some real vulnerable, honest, authentic communication. How do we navigate this relationship and navigate our sexuality and maintain trust and connection through it all, even if we're not like having physical sex every night. Um, and so it's like, okay, it's not fair to him. Then talk through it. What works for you as a couple? What works for you as an individual? Be open, be honest, be authentic with it, and see where that goes.
I just add to that, Brannon, that even just in the question that was submitted here, this self-awareness of realizing I of myself am not ready to lean in certain ways yet because I'm still hurting and I'm still working and I'm still navigating things. There would have to be another side of this, which is I sense and feel that there's shifting and changing in him too. And if that's happening, I'm realizing that I would, if I was in the right spot, I would want to lean in. I'm just not ready yet.
Yeah.
So now what she's got here is I get a chance to go and be honest and empathetic at the same time. Hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm seeing. I'm really grateful for the work that you're doing, and my heart is still not quite there yet. Please be patient with me. I see you. I know this is hard. In some ways, I would say a year and a half is typically like you're, you
It's
know, you're,
fairly normal.
yeah, I'd say that's pretty normal. And I don't think you're being necessarily unfair, but you can go and say, I realize that this must be hard for you.
But and if you're going
Right.
and saying, please be patient with me, then that means that you're committing to self-reflect and say, okay, what do I need to work on? What do I need to let go of? If he's showing signs of recovery, like actual real shifts and signs of recovery, um, and a lot of times the partner's like, well, why should I have to work on me? And this is the part where we get stuck a lot of times, but it doesn't sound like EJ is this type of person. Where it's like, okay, like what do I need to let go of? What therapy do I need to do? What energy work do I need to do? What daily self-care do I need to do? What
What
trauma work
wounds
do,
do I
do
need to
I need to
heal?
heal?
Yeah.
And so that I can be a more um, uh, like connected, intimate partner. I worked with a couple years ago, and it was awesome because I worked with them a little bit, didn't see them for a while, and she came in like 3 years later, and she's like, "My husband's awesome. Like he's amazing. He's like just working recovery, and he's just so grounded and just a good man. And I don't want to have sex with him." And she's like, "And I want to figure this out. I want to like, I want to figure out why I can't let this go." Um, and we did some pretty like amazing EMDR sessions. I think we did like three or four, and just that alone changed everything for her. Everything shifted. So but she was willing to look at herself, do her own trauma. And a lot of the trauma that came up in those EMDR sessions had nothing to do with him, like zero. Her all kinds of stuff about her dad and came up and like all kinds of stuff. Um, but she was able to let go a little bit and step into a trusting relationship. So yeah, communication together, understanding the process, um, being willing to do your own individual work, and then being willing to let go and surrender some things.
Yeah, I would say just with the caveat again, Brannon, that, this question from EJ sounds like it's a different kind of situation than the question we started with today. And if your partner or husband was in this stage of, I have to have sex in order to be okay and I'm entitled to
We're
it,
talking about two very
then
opposite,
don't lean yourself in there.
very
Um,
opposite situations.
yeah, that's because you want to lean in as things start to feel safe, secure, respectful. So if that's the situation you're seeing, you're man, okay, my partner's working hard and I'm just not quite there yet. Meet yourself with grace and compassion first. Be honest and empathetic in your relationship with your husband, and then continue to cultivate your own heart in whatever your heart needs for the continued journey of healing. And it'll take care of itself if you'll kind of follow those things.
Yeah. Um, and
So
and 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 you know, when you go ask for them to be patient with you, like be patient with yourself and honor yourself through the process of your own healing. When you do that, you're more likely to then want to be vulnerable and connect with someone else. What you don't want to do is be forced and nudged into something that you don't want to do, which will then just push you back further with your own recovery.
that's right. You want to make sure you're staying with your own values.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of will sense like even taking the courage to take the next step forward, it's got a different energy to it. You'll still have some fear, trepidation, but you'll kind of know it's the right step forward rather than just like always operating from a place of shut down, fear, walls up, that kind of stuff.
Right. Right.
So, um,
Again, two very different questions.
yeah. Um, yeah. What if I'm never ready? I like his friendship and who he is. My body doesn't feel any energy with him.
Yeah, and again, this we could do a whole other episode on this. I would say maybe you need to do some of your own individual work with your body and sexuality and figuring that out for you, just to awaken it. I would guess that your sexuality is there. It's in you. It's somewhere, but it might be buried under a lot of things, from betrayal trauma to busyness with the kids or whatever it is, right?
Core
Eh,
beliefs.
Yeah, core beliefs. And for you to stop and say, look, I'm going to make this a priority to discover myself and my sexuality and who I am. Um, and then that will hopefully awaken something inside of you to want to connect with a partner. And maybe not, but it might take a little bit of work to get out from under all those things.
Yeah, and I maybe just also say that it's very, very common. Brandon, I'm sure you run into this a lot, that after some kind of big broken trust or betrayal, a lot of times one or partner or the other will say, I don't think I can ever be attracted to this person again. I don't know if I can ever love them again. I don't know. And what I would say to that is that might be the case. Um, but but you're not really going to know until you do the work to reclaim your power and climb out of the hole you're in. And that buys time. I mean, if I would have gone like 2 weeks or 2 months or three or 4 months after my own D-Day with my wife, she thought she could never love me again or never be attracted to me again. But over time and with a lot of work on both sides, um, I think she's probably more attracted to me now than she's ever been, which is weird because I'm getting older. But
Oh, dude, you're hot, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is a possibility that just because it's feeling this way right now, with continued work, it may stay that way. And if it does, you'll make your choices. And if it doesn't, but it'll also have the potential to change when the conditions change, because attraction is connected to lots of other things besides just the physical.
Yeah.
you
And
know.
then there is something that's really hard is when you just are not attracted to your
Yeah.
partner.
And then you
And
have to navigate that.
you got to figure that out and work
Yeah.
on that. So it's not just about your own sexuality, but it is like, hey, like, what do we do to try to kindle something, find some attraction, and work on that, which can be really hard. And it's good to work with a therapist on that.
Yeah.
Um, Tyler, I think all your recovery work and everything. It helped with your wife's attraction to you, but I think it was the work you got done on your teeth that did it.
Hey, shout out to cousin Jeff on that again. He's
Yeah.
did me a huge solid on that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Tyler, this
so
has
it's
been
funny, Brandon. Just a quick story on that. It's so funny. We had some friends over that my wife works with from her work. They came over and we played games and had dinner a couple weeks ago, and then they were back at work with like all the clients. My wife works at a rehab center, and the clients were like, "Oh, you went up to." Her name's Violet or Rhiannon, but we went up to Violet's house this weekend. Oh, like what was her family like? And one of the other workers said, yeah, just a prototypical thing. They seem to have everything. Her husband has like way too wide of a smile and like I'm like, and the funny thing is on a video like this, they like pop, they like bling. So,
Yeah.
but no, yeah, I know we're out of time, Brandon, but I want to come back to the question because I got really pretty heated towards the husband in this, but the question was coming from a wife. And maybe just, Brandon, any last words for her in the situation that she's in right now?
Well, I would just reiterate what we said at the very beginning. Some of the stuff that I've said or Tyler has said has maybe been triggering, or you felt misunderstood, or and the truth is like I, we're not misunderstanding you. We don't have all the information. And so we've tried to talk about principles all around that question and just kind of shotgun approach it in order to figure out and help with what's going on. And so please don't take personal any of our feedback. We've just tried to pull out principles with it. The thing that I would say is for you to really check in with yourself and um and I say this all the time, but start to work in interdependent recovery. Um, Step into your own personal power, move forward regardless of his lack of moving forward. He might kick and scream and amp things up and make it even more difficult. And when I say move forward, that doesn't mean get more controlling, more fear based, more. No, it means you start loving yourself.
Live your
You
values.
you start showing up authentic. You have those healthy boundaries. You take care of yourself, and he's either gonna love you and choose you or he's not. And if he doesn't, that's his bad. But you want to get in that place of like I'm good, I'm lovable, I'm moving forward, um, and surrender his recovery over and make it about you right now.
She she asked the question after 9 years, is there really any hope? And my answer to that is there is always hope. I don't know if there's hope in a marriage being reconciled unless there's changes there, but there's hope for you absolutely
Don't know the outcome.
because whatever you do, when you work on reclaiming your own heart and living from your own power and finding your own peace, you will make the right decisions that will lead to a life of vibrance and happiness. I don't know what the outcomes will be, but there is absolutely hope for you. So thank you for the question. Thank you to those of you who threw in some chat in the chat today. We love that. And we love having you here with us. And until next time, keep on keeping on.